When you arrive in Canada, either on visitor visa, a student visa, or work visa, the border officer is going to ask you a few questions. And it is really important to be prepared for those questions and have some answers in mind. Reason being is that the border officer legally has the right to decide either you can get into the country or you have to be deported right from the airport. So in this video, we're gonna go through some of the very common questions that the border officers might ask you and what are the proper answers you can provide them with based on the type of visa that you have. The first common question is this your first time in Canada or have you been in Canada before? If you have been coming to Canada a lot, on, let's say, your work visa, you don't have to just count down the numbers you have been in Canada, but you can say, this is not my first time in Canada. I have been living here, for example, for 1 year. If this is your first time in Canada, you can just simply say, yes, this is my first time in Canada. So that's the first question. Next question is going to be, what is your purpose of visiting Canada? So if you are on a tourist visa, you can either answer, I'm here as a tourist, or I'm here to visit some family and friends. If you are on a study permit or work permit, of course, your answer would be, I'm here to study or I'm here to work. And then if your answer is, I'm here to study or I'm here to work, then the officer might ask you some follow-up questions. For example, what is the name of your school or what is the name of the company that you're working for? When you answer those questions, there are going to be some even more follow-up questions. For example, for students, a lot of times the officer will ask them, what is your field of study? What is the major or what is the level of the study? Is it like undergrad, master? So you have to be prepared to answer that. Also, if you are on a work visa, they might ask you, like, what is your job title or what is your role in the company? Usually, the follow-up questions for the student visa or work visa doesn't go further than this. But we have seen some cases that the officer will ask you even more questions. For example, why did you choose Canada to study or why did you choose Canada for work? For example, for myself, when I was a student, the border officer asked me once, at the time I was in the United States, and my answer was that, the most prestigious universities in the world are in the United States, and the quality of education is really high. And I know that when I get graduated from the US, I can find a job in anywhere in the world. So that was my short and proper answer. Your answer can be anything else that matches with your, experiences, your goals. The next question the officer is going to ask you, and they almost ask like everyone on any type of visa, is that, where are you going to stay? If you are a visitor and you have, for example, hotel reservation or Airbnb reservation, make sure that you print out the reservation or at least have it on your phone ready. There are some cases that as a visitor, you are not staying in a hotel or Airbnb. For example, you're staying with a friend or family. In that case, you need to have an invitation letter. The letter should be on behalf of your friend or family who you are going to stay with. In the letter, they have to provide their name, their contact information like phone number, email address, and the residential address that you're going to stay at. They have to mention that during your stay in Canada, for example, in Toronto, in Vancouver, this person, which is going to be your name, is going to stay with us for this duration. Make sure that that person also mentions their own status in Canada. So this is for the visitors, but sometimes students actually have reserved a dorm. So if you have reserved a dorm, you should have received a letter or a confirmation from your university. You can just print that out or have this ready on your phone. And the next question is going to be how long you are going to stay in Canada. If you are on a visitor visa, it is very critical that you have your return flights available to show to the border officer. So you have to show the reservation of your return flight and say, hey, my flight is booked in 2 months, in a month. So I'm going to stay here for only a month. If you are a student or if you are working in Canada, you can simply say, my plan is to stay in Canada until my graduation date, or my plan is to stay in Canada while my work permit is valid. If you do have some plans for the future to convert your study visa or your work visa into permanent residency, you do not need to go into that detail. Don't ask, don't tell. So don't share too much information with the officer. And the last 3 questions are you traveling alone or are you traveling with someone else? So obviously, if you are traveling with your family or if you're traveling alone, you should answer that question. Next is going to be, do you have any family or friends in Canada? So if you have any family or relatives in Canada, you should be ready to mention their names, what is their status in Canada, and what do they do, like as a job. And the last question is going to be, do you have any money that you're bringing with yourself to Canada today? If you have any money in cash that you're bringing to Canada, you should mention it to the border officer. The regulation is that if it is more than 10,000, you have to declare it. Otherwise, you might face some charges. But my personal recommendation, I always declare whatever money that I have, even if it's like $500 in cash or $1,000 in cash, even for a small amount. I will always declare it to the border officer. I hope you found this information helpful. If you would like to see more videos like this, do not forget to subscribe to my channel.